Good morning, grade 5. Our lesson today is the circumference of the circle. Let's remember quickly what we have studied about the circle before. Here, M is called the center of the circle, and this distance is called the radius of the circle. Okay, and all the radii of one circle are equal, so MA equals MB. Because all the radii of one circle are equals MC. So MA equals MB equals MC. Okay, but the length of CB is called the diameter of the circle. Okay, since CM or MC equals MB, so how can I calculate the length of the diameter and the length of the radius? Here I have a magical triangle here. Diameter equals 2 times radius. Okay, so if here I have the length of the radius, how can I calculate the diameter? Cover the diameter. Diameter equals radius times 2. Diameter equals radius times 2. Or if I have the length of the diameter and I want to calculate the length of the radius, let's cover the length of the radius. Radius equals diameter over 2. So radius equals diameter over 2. Or I can make it mentally. If the radius here is 2, so I can make 2 plus 2, or 2 times 2 equals 4. If I have the length of the diameter, CB 10, I will divide 10 by 2 to get the length of the radius, which is 5. Okay? Okay. This year, we are going to study the circumference of the circle. Okay. Since I have two lengths, the length of the radius and the length of the diameter, so I will have two rules for the circumference of the circle. Okay. First rule is pi times d. Pi times the length of the diameter, and pi times 2 times radius. Okay, so if I have the length of the diameter, I'm going to use this rule to calculate the circumference of the circle, and if I have the length of the radius, I will use this rule to calculate the circumference of the circle. Okay, so now here, what is the circumference? What do I mean first by circumference before learning how to calculate it? Okay, this is my circle. If I want to know the length of this curve, so measuring the length of this curve is called the circumference of the circle. Okay, it means the parameter, but I call parameter if I want to get the parameter of a polygon, like the rectangle or like the square. I call I want to calculate the parameter of the rectangle or the square. Okay, but here if I want to calculate the parameter of a curve, I don't call it parameter, I call it circumference, because the rectangle and square, they have line segments here. Okay, here I have line segments, so I say I want to calculate the parameter for any polygon which has line segments. But here the circle doesn't have any line segments, it has curve. Circle is a closed curve, so I don't say I want to calculate the parameter, I say I want to calculate the circumference of the circle, but both are the same meaning. Okay, so here, after knowing the two rules, let's calculate the circumference of the circle here. So I will use the radius, pi times radius times 2. Here pi is going to be given here, which is 22 over 7, times radius, which is 14, times 2, and it's going to be in centimeter because this is circumference or parameter. Okay, it's not area. I mean, first, the pi, what do I mean by pi? Okay, every time they divided the circumference by the length of the diameter, they got the same value, which is 22 over 7 or 3.14. They are going to be given in the problem. And the same here, every time they divided the circumference by 2 times r, I will get the same number. Whenever the number is of the circumference and the number of the radius, whenever the number of the circumference and the number of the diameter, every time I divide the circumference by the diameter, I will get the same number, which is 22 over 7 or 3.14. Okay. Here I have the length of the diameter, so I will use pi times the diameter. Pi is here 22/7 times the diameter, which is 7. It's gonna be in centimeter. Here I have the length of the radius, pi times radius times 2. It's gonna be 22/7 times radius is 28 times 2. It's gonna be in centimeter. And here I am given, here the diameter, the length of the diameter is given here. So pi times the diameter, which is 22/7 times 35. Okay, it's gonna be in centimeter. تمام. Here, if I want to get the opposite back, if I don't want to calculate the circumference of the circle, if I want to calculate the diameter and I want to calculate the radius. Okay, here I will cover the diameter. And what do I have now? I have circumference over pi. So if I want to calculate the length of the diameter from the circumference, let's cover the diameter, circumference over pi. Here, if I want to calculate the length of the radius, let's cover the radius, circumference over pi times 2. So radius equals circumference up here and 2 times pi down. That's when I want to calculate the length of the diameter and the length of the radius from the circumference. Okay, like here, like this example. If the circumference of the circle is 44 centimeter, then the length of the diameter. Okay, so here I will draw the magical triangle in front of me. Here pi times the diameter. How, if I want to calculate the diameter, I will cover the diameter. Diameter equals circumference over pi. So circumference is 44 over pi, which is given here, 22/7. It's gonna be in centimeter. Okay, here. If the radius of the circle is 7 and the circumference equals, here it's normal. I want to calculate the circumference. Circumference equals 2 times pi times radius. 2 times pi, which is 22/7, times radius, which is 7, and get it on the calculator. Find the length of the radius with circumference 33. Okay, so here I will draw my magical triangle. Circumference equals 2 times pi times radius. Here I want to calculate the length of the radius. Let's cover the radius. What do I have now? Circumference up and 2 times pi down. Okay, so the circumference here is 33 and down 2 times pi. Pi is not given here, so you can put it or assume it any number. Let's put it 22/7, so it's gonna be in centimeter.